I used to think the worst betrayal came from strangers. I was wrong. It came wrapped in blood and bone, in the smile of the sister I once trusted with my life. If you've ever felt that cold distance behind someone's hug, or wondered how far your family would go when envy turns sharp, stay with me. This story isn't just mine. It might be yours too, because what happened didn't start with a lie. It started with silence, and a sealed envelope handed to me at a funeral. I'm Liora Camden. I'm 34. I live in Seattle. I design spaces for a living, make things beautiful, ordered, calm. But what happened last July tore every bit of calm from my life and exposed the ugliness I'd been trying to decorate over. But let me take you back. Because before the headlines, the forged documents, the accusations, there was just me, standing alone in a cemetery with rain soaking into my boots and a letter trembling in my hands. The funeral had ended an hour ago. The crowd had thinned. I stayed behind, watching the gardeners lower the casket of my Aunt Camille, my mother's sister, the closest thing I ever had to a mentor, into the ground. A soft voice called my name. It was Camille's lawyer, Mr. Winslow, gray suit, wet spectacles, an envelope sealed in red wax. He pressed it into my hand and whispered, "Your aunt wanted you to have this, alone." Inside was a single sheet, handwritten in Camille's unmistakable looping script. "Guard this with your life, Liora. It's more than art. It's your legacy. I've left the Camden collection to you, privately. Do not tell Taryn." I read it twice before the weight of it hit. The Camden collection. $12 million worth of fine art. Left to me, and me alone. My breath fogged the air. I glanced up at the gray Seattle skyline, cloud-heavy and silent. I wasn't thinking about money. I was thinking about Taryn Vale, my older half-sister. We shared a mother, a few birthdays, a broken childhood. She was always the loud one, the beautiful one, the one who knew how to turn pain into attention. I knew she wouldn't take this well. Later that evening, after I got home, I hid the envelope behind the false panel in my closet. Ellis, my husband, noticed my silence at dinner. He always does, but I wasn't ready to tell him. Not yet. I needed time, a plan, something. 3 days passed. I didn't tell a soul. Then I heard her. I was in the kitchen when her voice floated through the slightly ajar window. Taryn, standing outside by her car, phone pressed to her ear. "I don't care what it takes," she hissed, pacing. "I need that money. You said the will was airtight, so make it airtight. Do your job." I froze. The plate I was drying slipped from my hands and shattered on the tile. She didn't hear it, but I heard everything, every syllable. There was no mention of me, no mention of Aunt Camille, just desperation, a name I didn't recognize, Mira, and a promise to fix everything. That night I didn't sleep. The city buzzed quietly outside our window. A bus groaned past. I stared at the ceiling until sunrise turned the walls gray-blue, and still I said nothing. When Ellis asked if I was okay, I smiled, small, practiced, just tired. The truth is, I wasn't ready to confront what I'd always suspected. That love in my family was a transaction, and I'd just inherited the biggest debt. A week later, Taryn showed up unannounced. It was raining again. Seattle rain, soft, endless, more whisper than storm. She stood in the doorway like she owned the place. Slick red coat, lips curled in that half-smile she used when she wanted something. Her perfume, jasmine and something sharp, drifted in with her. "You still living in this shoebox?" she teased, stepping over the threshold. I laughed politely. She hugged me, tight, one beat too long. Her hands were cold. I offered her tea. She asked for wine. I poured us each a glass. We sat on the couch and I tried not to stare at the laptop open on the desk nearby, the letter still on the screen. I closed it quickly when her eyes flicked toward it. "What are you working on?" she asked casually. "Client project," I lied. She sipped her wine, eyes too sharp, too quiet. Then she leaned in. "You ever think about what Aunt Camille was hiding?" she said. Her voice was soft, too soft. "Always locking those cabinets in the gallery, like we were kids about to steal candy." I shrugged. I figured it was just insurance stuff. Taryn's laugh was a note too high. "Yeah, or a secret stash." I didn't respond. Inside, my pulse thudded against my ribs like it wanted out. When she left an hour later, she hugged me again, but this time, Her fingers lingered at my back, and when she pulled away, her smile had vanished. "I'll see you soon," she said. It didn't sound like a promise. It sounded like a threat. I watched her walk to her car. Her coat vanished into the mist. And that was the moment I realized. Silence hadn't protected me. It had exposed me. Taryn knew something, and I had no idea how far she was willing to go. The scent of paint thinner still reminds me of her. That and rain-damp canvas. It's strange, isn't it, how some memories don't fade, just wait for the right light to resurface? I was 8 the first time Taryn let me into Aunt Camille's studio. She'd stolen the key from Camille's apron, laughing like it was a game. The room was magic. Floor-to-ceiling windows, late spring sun slanting through linen curtains, dust motes swirling like fireflies. Taryn dipped a brush in cobalt blue and whispered, "Watch this." I did. Every stroke of her wrist was like watching someone conjure something from nothing. She grinned at me, her cheek smudged with charcoal. "Try it." I fumbled with the brush. She reached over, guiding my fingers. "Light pressure," she said. "Let it breathe." That moment. It was the closest we ever came to being just sisters. No competition, no past, just paint and sun. But that was a long time ago. Now, as I stood at the edge of our living room, watching Ellis stir sugar into his coffee, oblivious to the storm crawling toward us, I felt that memory tighten in my chest like a pulled thread. I finally told him. I waited until the air between us felt warm enough to hold the weight. "She left it to me," I said quietly. "All of it, privately." He looked up. "All of what?" "The Camden collection, 12 million. Aunt Camille's real will. It wasn't public. She gave it to me at the funeral." The spoon stopped clinking. His hand froze midair. "You're serious?" I nodded. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I opened my mouth, closed it. Because I knew this would change things, because I didn't want to watch you calculate what that kind of money does to a person, because I didn't even trust myself with it yet. But I only said, "I wasn't ready." He took a slow sip, studying me. Then he reached across the counter and touched my hand. "You gonna tell Taryn?" That question lodged in my throat like a shard of glass. "I don't know." "Liora, she's your sister." "Is she?" I didn't say it aloud, but my stomach turned. The way she'd hovered by the laptop, the hushed phone call, the cryptic references to a lawyer, it didn't feel like sisterhood. It felt like surveillance. Later that afternoon, I heard tires on wet pavement. A car door slammed. From the window, I saw it. Taryn's new ride. Midnight black, custom rims, red leather interior. She stepped out like someone walking a runway. Hair curled, nails like crimson glass, smile plastered on like stage makeup. I blinked. 2 weeks ago, she'd complained about needing to rent out her spare room just to survive. And now this? She glanced up at my window and smiled. Not a wave, not a gesture. Just a slow, knowing smile, like she saw something behind the glass I didn't even know I was showing. My heart kicked harder. That night, I stared at my phone for 2 hours. I almost texted her. Something vague, a peace offering. But every time I typed a word, I erased it. I kept thinking about that summer after Mom died. Taryn had taken me out to the lake, wrapped a blanket around my shoulders, and told me I'd never be alone. She lied about a lot of things. But in that moment, I believed her. The next morning, I saw her name flash across my screen. Taryn. "Want to grab lunch this weekend? Just us, like old times." I didn't reply, because suddenly, I wasn't sure if I was being invited to reconnect or to confess. I went down to the gallery, Camden and Vale. The name still made my gut twist. It used to mean something. Now it felt like a relic of a childhood illusion. The lights were off. I flicked on the track bulbs one by one. The oil paintings on the west wall flickered into view, brushstrokes soft and feral at once. I traced a finger along the edge of a frame. Dust clung to my fingertip like guilt. Then I heard it. A creak. Back hallway. My breath stilled. I moved quietly across the hardwood floor. The back office door was ajar. I pushed it open and froze. Taryn was there, leaning against the desk, scrolling through her phone like she belonged. I didn't speak right away, neither did she. Finally, she looked up, unbothered. "Forgot you kept that key," I said. She shrugged. You forget a lot of things lately. I stepped in slowly. My hand grazed the edge of the file cabinet where the original will sat buried beneath 3 decoy invoices. What are you doing here? Just visiting. Thought I'd tidy up. Camille would have hated the dust. Her voice was smooth, but her eyes were scanning. Corners, shelves, the safe behind the false canvas panel. I felt something cold bloom beneath my ribs. Thought you were short on rent, I said. She smiled. Things change. And then, she leaned forward. You know, Camille always said you had a good heart. My throat tightened. But hearts, she tapped her chest lightly, they're not so good at protecting valuables. There it was, the warning, cloaked in silk. I didn't respond. I just turned and walked out. My legs were steady. My fingers dug crescents into my palms. When I got home, Ellis looked up from the couch. Everything okay? I nodded. Yeah. But that night, I sat on the floor of our bedroom, the letter in my lap, and stared at it like it might answer for me. I thought keeping the secret would keep us safe. But now, with Taryn circling like smoke, I wasn't sure if silence was armor or bait. And across the street, headlights flashed once, then vanished. I didn't need to check. She was watching. Some people destroy you with fists. Taryn used charm. The dining room shimmered in candlelight. The long mahogany table was set like something out of a magazine. Gold flatware, cream napkins folded into crisp triangles, wine glasses catching the glow of the chandelier. Ellis had planned the dinner, said it might ease the air. I wasn't convinced. Taryn arrived in a satin blouse, the color of bone and lipstick that made her teeth gleam when she smiled. She hugged Ellis first. Too long, too familiar. Then turned to me. Lee, she breathed, brushing a kiss against my cheek. You look tired. I did, and she knew it. I poured wine with a hand that wouldn't stop shaking. The cork had splintered when I opened it. Now little bits floated near the surface. I didn't care. The conversation started harmless. Catch-up talk, movies, traffic, Ellis's promotion. Then, over the roasted chicken and rosemary potatoes, she leaned in. So, she said, slicing her food slowly, any idea what Camille left behind? My fork paused midair. Ellis glanced at me. I kept my face calm. What do you mean? You know, she went on, casual, lips curling, all her hidden treasures. She was practically a dragon, hoarding paintings no one saw. Dad used to joke the gallery had $1 million secret wing. I forced a laugh. Sounds like Dad. But my blood was cooling. She twirled her wine glass between thumb and forefinger. Seriously, though, any clues? Old letters? A locked cabinet? Camille always trusted you more than me. Her voice dipped just enough to turn the sentence into a hook. And there it was, the first crack in her mask. Ellis cleared his throat. Maybe now's not the time. Oh, relax, she interrupted lightly. We're just talking. Families share things, right? She held my gaze. I smiled. I don't know how, but I did. Of course. After dinner, Ellis washed dishes. Taryn offered to help, but when I told her no thanks, she drifted toward the office instead. I followed a minute later and caught her crouched by my desk, pretending to fix a loose heel. The laptop screen was still glowing. She glanced up. Sorry, she said, laughing. The heel caught your rug. Cute wallpaper, by the way. I looked at the screen. It was my calendar. But she'd clicked open the private folder minutes earlier. I knew because the last file I opened hadn't been the calendar, and that folder contained a scanned copy of the will. I shut the lid. Need anything else? I asked. Nope. She stood, brushing non-existent dust off her thighs. Just being nosy, I guess. She left 15 minutes later. Ellis said she seemed better than usual. I didn't answer. That night I checked the laptop logs. Sure enough, she'd opened the will. The timestamp was exact. My fingers curled so tight my knuckles ached. I thought about calling her, screaming, demanding to know what the hell she was playing at. Instead, I turned off the screen and sat there in the dark. Because yelling at Taryn never worked. She'd just laugh and say I was being dramatic. And if I told Ellis, he'd suggest a calm conversation, the kind that always ended with me doubting myself. So I sat still, listened to the rain tap the windows, wondered when exactly she stopped being my sister and became something else entirely. The next morning, I drove to the gallery. I needed the smell of turpentine and varnished wood, the comfort of Camille's world. Clean lines, controlled lighting, silence. I walked the aisle slowly. Light filtered through the skylight in fractured beams. Dust swirled like fog. I stopped in front of Camille's favorite painting, a storm over Skagit Valley done in oil and graphite. Angry lines, brutal color. Taryn had once called it ugly. Camille called it honest. A memory flickered. We were teenagers. Camille had just taken us on a trip to Portland for a gallery tour. That night in the hotel room, I found Taryn crying in the bathroom. "What happened?" I whispered, kneeling beside her. She didn't look at me, just clutched a rejection letter. Art school, her third. "She said I had no point of view," she muttered. I wrapped my arms around her. "She's wrong." But even back then, I think she knew I believed Camille more than her. Now, walking past those same brushstrokes, I wondered how much of her resentment had started there, in the quiet spaces where she felt unseen, unchosen. I made it back to the office by noon. Ellis was out. I reheated coffee and stared at the unread email stack in my inbox. Then the phone rang. Unknown number. I picked up. A woman's voice, slight accent, velvet slick tone. "Is this Miss Camden?" "Yes." "Camille was a friend," she said. "I just wanted to offer my condolences and say, I hope you're being careful. Not everyone mourns with kindness." "Who is this?" But the line had already gone dead. My chest tightened. I checked the call log. No ID, just a blank number. I sat still for a full minute. Then something dawned on me. Taryn had mentioned someone on that phone call outside, the night she thought I wasn't listening. A name. Mira. I wrote it down on a napkin. Just the word. But it felt like a match about to hit dry timber. Later that evening, Taryn texted me again. "Taryn, dinner next week? I found something you might want to see." No emoji this time. No heart. Just those words. Sharp, clean, purposeful. I didn't reply. Because I didn't need to see anything. I already knew what she wanted, and this time I wouldn't wait for her to strike first. I should have known better than to meet her at the gallery, but there's something about familiar places. They make you forget who people have become. Camden and Vale looked pristine that day. Spotlights lit the canvases in soft amber. Jazz hummed low from hidden speakers. Guests sipped wine in tailored coats, their heels tapping gently on the hardwood. It was supposed to be a memorial exhibit for Camille, but for Taryn it was a performance. Her entrance was timed, like always. 20 minutes late, just enough to turn heads. Her dress was blood-red silk, and her smile cut through the room like glass. I stood near Camille's self-portrait, nerves twisting in my stomach like thread pulled too tight. The air was thick with citrus and varnish, and I could barely breathe. She approached me with a wine glass in one hand and a leather folder in the other. "Let's talk," she whispered. I followed her into the back office. The door clicked shut behind us, and the music vanished into silence. She set the folder down. Inside was a will. Not the one I had. A different one. Signed, notarized, with Camille's signature at the bottom. "I found this," she said softly. "Last week. Thought you'd want to see it." I reached for it, but she held it back. "Sign here," she said, sliding a single page toward me. "It just transfers your rights. Nothing complicated." My pulse spiked. "What is this?" "You know what it is," she said, voice tightening. Camille meant to leave it to both of us. This just makes it official. No, she didn't. Her eyes flared. "Don't act like you're the victim, Liora. You've always had everything. Mom's attention, Camille's loyalty, even Ellis's sympathy." "That's not true." She took a step forward. "You think this is about money? It's not. It's about legacy, about not being erased. Camille knew I needed it more than you." "You're holding a forged will, Taryn." Her fingers trembled just slightly as she tucked her hair behind her ear. "She told me," she whispered, "before she died, that she regretted leaving you everything, that it wasn't fair." I blinked. That sounded real, almost, but I saw the flicker behind her eyes, the calculation, the trap snapping shut. She never said that. "You sure?" I looked down at the page. My name was printed on the bottom line. All I had to do was sign. She stepped closer. "I hired someone to find the original," she confessed, lips curling. "A PI. Turns out secrets don't stay buried long." My throat went dry. She knew, She had proof, or thought she did. "This is insane," I said. "No," she replied. "This is survival." She grabbed a pen from her purse and held it out to me. I didn't take it. For a moment we stood there, silent, inches apart. The gallery noises filtered faintly through the wall, murmured conversations, the clink of glass. Then I turned and opened the door. She didn't follow right away. But when she did, she wore a new mask, smile wide, voice bright. "Such a lovely event," she said loudly, to no one in particular. "Camille would be proud." I walked past her, down the hallway, into the main gallery. The lights felt too bright. My skin itched. I kept walking until I hit the door, pushed it open. Rain slammed into me like a curtain. Cold, unforgiving. I didn't have an umbrella, didn't care. I staggered into the storm, heels slick against the sidewalk. My heart pounded in my ears. My mind raced. She forged the will, hired someone, backed it up with confidence and just enough truth to make me hesitate. And the worst part? No one inside saw it. Not the betrayal, not the ambush. Just me, leaving early, alone, again. I walked for blocks without realizing it. The rain had soaked through my dress, my coat, my skin. I ducked into a narrow alley behind a shuttered bookstore, my breath fogging the air. I leaned against the brick wall and tried to breathe, but then I wasn't alone. Across the alley, someone stood beneath a black umbrella, watching. A woman, mid-50s, sharp coat, heels too expensive for this part of town. I couldn't see her face clearly, but when she turned and stepped into the streetlight, something inside me twisted. It was her, the voice on the phone, the one who'd warned me. She didn't speak, just gave me a faint, knowing smile. Then she disappeared into the rain, her umbrella fading like a shadow into mist. I stood frozen. Who was she? Why had she been at the gallery? And what did she want from me, or from Taryn? When I got home, Ellis was asleep. I didn't wake him. Instead, I opened the real will from Camille, held it in my shaking hands, her handwriting, her words. "Guard this with your life, Liora. It's more than art." I'd thought she meant legacy. Now I wondered if she meant danger, because Taryn wasn't acting alone, and whatever came next, I wasn't just protecting an inheritance. I was protecting the truth. Some legacies are framed in gold, others are buried under dust, locked away and left to rot with the truth. The gallery was empty when I arrived. I didn't turn on the main lights, just the dim pendant bulb above Camille's desk in the back studio. The air smelled like old varnish and lemon cleaner, with a faint metallic bite that made my throat tighten. I stood at the threshold for a long minute, staring at the place where Camille used to sit. Her chair was still pushed halfway out, just like she'd left it before the cancer made her too weak to climb the stairs. My fingers trembled as I reached for the drawers. The first two were filled with paint swatches, receipts, and old brochures. Then the third stuck halfway open, jammed. I pulled harder. It gave way with a sharp crack, revealing a faded leather-bound journal wedged at the back, tucked beneath a stack of blank invoices. I stared at it. The cover was dry and cracked, the spine half split. Camille's name wasn't on it, but the handwriting inside was hers. That sharp, looping scrawl I knew like a heartbeat. I flipped through slowly. Each page was filled with sketches of paintings, notations, sales dates, some with small X's beside them. Some entries ended with numbers I couldn't decipher. Coordinates, inventory, a code. Then I found it. A page tucked near the center. Edges curled like someone had touched it often. See collection. True Vault access via the red canvas. Only key remains with Liora. She'll know where. Trust no one. My stomach dropped. The red canvas. Camille's last unfinished painting. The one she kept hidden under a dustcloth in the north alcove. I moved quickly, heart pounding in my ears. The studio lights buzzed faintly overhead as I crossed the room, each step creaking across the warped floorboards. There it was. I pulled the cloth away, revealing the canvas, thick crimson strokes over black primer, textured with ash and grit. A grotesque beauty, like something gutted and smeared onto linen. I turned the frame over, and there, wedged behind the back panel, was a brass key taped in place. I stared at it like it might bite me. What were you hiding, Camille? Behind me, the door opened. "Jesus," I gasped, spinning. "Ellis." "Sorry," he said, holding up a hand. "Didn't mean to scare you." I tucked the journal under my arm. You shouldn't sneak up on people. He took a breath. You weren't answering your phone. I got worried. I'm fine. Liora, I said I'm fine. His face stiffened. He stepped closer. What is that? Camille's journal, I said flatly. And what's in it? Answers. We stood in silence for a beat. Then I handed it to him. He flipped through slowly, brow furrowing. These numbers, I think it's a location, maybe a safe, a vault. He looked up. In the gallery? I nodded. I don't know what's in it yet, but Camille left it to me. She said to guard it. She knew someone would come after it. Ellis sat on the arm of the sofa, the journal still open in his lap. He ran a hand through his hair. You think Taryn knows about this? I don't know, I said, but I think she's getting help. Ellis's gaze sharpened. That woman from the alley? I nodded. She knew who I was, knew about Camille, but she didn't threaten me, not directly. Maybe she's Mira, he muttered. The name stung like a wasp. I hadn't said it out loud since that night. I whispered it now. Mira Holt. Ellis looked up. Who? A name Taryn mentioned, months ago, when she thought I wasn't listening. You think she's the one behind this? I shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe she's the reason Taryn's desperate. Either way, I need to know. Just then, something fluttered out of the journal, a folded note hidden between 2 pages. I picked it up. It wasn't Camille's writing. It was sharp, frantic, printed in red pen. They're closer than you think. Watch the mirrors. Don't trust the frame. My hands went cold. Who wrote that? Ellis asked. I don't know. I scanned the back, blank. No signature, no date, but the corners were smudged with paint and ash, same as the red canvas. My pulse hammered. Someone had already found the journal, read it, and left this. But why not take the journal with them? Why leave it at all, unless they wanted me to find it? Later that night, back home, I locked the journal in the safe behind the linen closet. The key from the canvas stayed with me, looped on a leather string I wore beneath my shirt. I barely slept. When I did, I dreamed of Camille's studio in flames, the red canvas melting, dripping like blood down the walls. Taryn stood in the doorway, watching it burn. Holding the forged will in one hand and laughing like she'd already won, I woke up gasping, soaked in sweat. The next morning, I made a decision. I texted Ellis, meet me at the gallery tonight. We're opening the vault. Because whatever Camille hid was no longer safe behind walls and memory, and I wasn't waiting to be cornered again. The mind does strange things in the dark. It replays voices, twists shadows, turns silence into something sharp. That night, I couldn't sleep. Again. The journal lay open beside me. The red canvas key dangled from my neck like a weight I didn't ask for. Ellis had gone to bed hours ago, but I stayed curled on the couch, staring into the blue glow of my laptop screen, refreshing my inbox like a tick. Then it appeared. Subject line, you need to see this. No sender, no name, no traceable IP, just an attachment. I stared at it. My cursor hovered. Every warning bell in my head rang, but I clicked it. A PDF opened. My stomach twisted. Scans. Dozens of them. Dates, notes, and official-looking documents, one with Camille's forged signature, another with my name typed beside a transfer of ownership, a forged will. But more than that, email headers, timestamps, metadata, and at the top, from the private archives of Taryn Vale, copied and leaked by a friend. I felt the blood drain from my hands. My sister didn't just forge Camille's will, she detailed it, outlined the whole operation, step by step. There were references to meetings, fake notary stamps, a hidden flash drive, even a second voice in the background. Mira confirms courier for notarization, 5-2. That name again. I printed the file without thinking. The printer groaned in the hallway. Too loud, too slow. I kept looking over my shoulder like someone might be watching me from inside my own house. The last page had no writing, just one sentence. They're already moving against you. Be ready. No signature. Just a friend. I sat frozen on the couch, every muscle locked. It felt like paranoia. But paranoia usually doesn't come with legal documents. The next morning, I waited until Ellis left for the grocery store. Then I spread the pages across the dining table like war maps. My fingers traced the margins, following every forged line, every highlighted clause. It was too perfect, too practiced. How long had she been planning this? How much of our recent reconnection was rehearsed? A familiar voice echoed in my mind. Camille, during one of our last late-night talks, glass of wine in her hand, voice ragged with chemo and clarity. Your sister wears masks, Liora. Beautiful ones, but masks all the same. She'll cry for you with one hand on your throat. Back then I thought Camille was just bitter, maybe a little dramatic. Now I understood. I folded the papers, slid them into a manila folder, and tucked it under my arm. I needed space. I needed to breathe. I drove back to the gallery. Light rain misted the windshield. The wipers thudded slow and steady like a warning drum. Inside, the gallery was cold. The heat hadn't kicked on yet, and everything smelled like lemon oil and regret. I opened Camille's journal again. The same coordinates, the same warning. Watch the mirrors, don't trust the frame. I checked the back of the red canvas again. Nothing new, the brass key still intact. But something in me buzzed. Not about the journal, about the email. Who was a friend? Why now? And how did they get into Taryn's private files? I turned on the office desktop, tapped into Camille's archive account, something only I and her attorney were supposed to know. Nothing new. But then, I noticed it. An unfamiliar login from 2 days ago. An access log from a Seattle cafe. My heart stuttered. Mira? Had she hacked it? Or was it someone else entirely? Suddenly, I wasn't sure which was worse, that the walls were closing in from the outside, or that the cracks were already inside the house. That night, Ellis and I sat at the dinner table in silence. He sensed something was off. I could tell by the way he kept fiddling with his fork, glancing at me, then looking away. Finally, he said it. You're somewhere else. I wanted to tell him everything, but instead I whispered, I'm just tired. He nodded, but I could feel his distance. And I wasn't sure anymore if he was staying distant for my sake or hiding something of his own. Later, when he fell asleep, I returned to the gallery, alone. I turned the key Camille had left me, opened the hidden panel behind the back shelf. It creaked open slowly, like something was holding its breath. Inside was a steel lockbox. I didn't open it, not yet. Instead, I stepped back, listening to the quiet. Then, I heard it, a breath, soft, from the far hallway. I froze. Who's there? I called out. Nothing. I crept forward, heartbeat thudding behind my ribs. The back door was ajar, the latch broken. I stepped outside into the rain. Footprints, fresh, leading toward the street. Someone had been watching me, and they were getting bolder. I looked down at the folder in my hands. If they were willing to break in, what would they do when they realized I'd found the proof? I didn't have time to wonder, because whatever Taryn and Mira were planning, I wasn't waiting to play defense anymore. They say betrayal feels like a knife in the back, but that night, it felt more like a hand brushing your hair before it clamps around your throat. The gallery pulsed with soft music and the hum of wine-drunk patrons. Glasses clinked, laughter echoed. To them, it was just another opening, but for me, this was war. I stood by the Camille Escape series, clutching the folded email printout inside my clutch, its edges already frayed from my grip. The lights above me cast golden halos on the lacquered floors, bouncing off brushstrokes and false smiles. Then I saw her, Taryn, hair swept into a sleek knot, navy dress, diamond studs that weren't hers 6 months ago. Her lips parted into a socialite smile the second our eyes met, polished, practiced, poisonous. She made her rounds like a politician, touch on the elbow here, soft giggle there, and finally she drifted toward me. You came, she said, her voice sweet like syrup sliding down a knife. Didn't want to miss another tribute, I replied. She leaned in slightly as if sharing a joke. You look tense. I stepped back. I know what you did, Taryn. Her smile didn't falter. Darling, you'll have to be more specific. I pulled out the printout. This. She glanced at the paper like it bored her. And? Emails, dates, forged signatures, proof. She tilted her head. From who? This friend of yours? She scoffed. Come on, Liora, you think anyone will take that seriously? I think a judge might. That got her attention. Just a flicker, a crease in her brow before she smoothed it over. Let's talk privately, she said through clenched teeth. We walked through the crowd, her still smiling, me barely breathing. Every step felt like it might give way beneath me. The back room was quieter, just the hum of a dehumidifier and the faint scent of turpentine in the air. She shut the door behind us. "You really want to do this?" she asked, arms crossed. "You forged a will, Taryn." "I did what I had to." Her voice cracked. Barely, but I caught it. She paced, the heels of her shoes hitting the hardwood like gunshots. "I was drowning, Liora. You think I wanted this? You think I enjoyed watching you get everything? Again? This isn't about me. It's about Camille's trust, her legacy." Taryn laughed, cold, brittle. "Legacy? You think that gallery meant anything to her by the end? She was senile, doped up on pills and regret." I stepped forward, fury tightening my chest. "She remembered enough to know she didn't trust you." That hit hard. She flinched, then steadied. "I didn't do it alone," she said. "You think I could pull that off myself?" My blood turned to ice. "Mira," I whispered. She smiled. "Mira knew Camille's vault existed long before you did. She's been waiting for years for the old woman to die. She needed me. I needed her. It was mutually beneficial." "Mutually destructive," I snapped. Taryn's jaw twitched. I reached for the door, but it opened before I could touch it. Mira stood there, chic trench coat, cold eyes, and a smirk that made my skin crawl. "Going somewhere?" she asked, stepping inside and closing the door behind her. "Taryn," I hissed. "What is this?" Mira walked slowly toward me. "You've been very clever. Finding the journal, the email, the vault." She looked around the room like she already owned it. "I underestimated you." "You're trespassing," she laughed. "You think this is still yours to protect?" I held up the email. "I've already sent copies to my attorney, to Camille's estate lawyer. If anything happens to me—" "Oh, sweetheart," Mira interrupted, stepping closer. "I'm not here to kill you. I'm here to warn you." I blinked. "Warn me?" She glanced at Taryn, then back at me. "Your sister has debts. Real ones. To people who make me look like a kitten." Taryn's face paled. "Mira, no more lies," she said flatly. "You brought me into this to fix your mess, but you didn't tell me how deep you were. How much danger we're both in now." I stared between them. This was the twist I didn't see coming. This wasn't just greed. This was desperation. And Taryn, she wasn't just a thief. She was sinking. Mira turned back to me. "Your best move is to walk away. Drop the documents. Forget the vault." I laughed. "That's not going to happen." Mira studied me, then smiled. "Didn't think so." She moved past me, opened the door, and walked out like she owned the place. Taryn stood there frozen. "I didn't know," she murmured. "Not all of it." I didn't reply, because I didn't believe her. I left her standing in that room. Back in the gallery, the music had changed. Softer, slower. The patrons were thinning, but I stayed, watched them leave, one by one. When the last light shut off and silence settled in like fog, I sat at Camille's desk. I pulled out the voice recorder I'd tucked in my coat pocket before the confrontation. Hit stop, every word, every lie, every admission, captured. Now I just had to decide what to do with it. Because if Mira was right, this wasn't just about family anymore. Someone else was watching, waiting, and I had just stepped into their line of sight. Seattle's rain has a way of soaking through more than just fabric. That night it seeped into my bones, and the deeper it sank, the more I realized I wasn't the only one being hunted. I tailed Mira like a ghost. She left the gallery just after 9 p.m. No goodbye, no glance back. Just a quiet click of heels across wet pavement and a black umbrella gliding toward the corner. I followed from half a block behind, coat zipped high, clutch pressed to my ribs like armor. The rain masked my footsteps. The city hummed low with late-night neon and the hiss of tires on slick roads. She ducked into a narrow cafe near Pioneer Square, a place called Rook and Finch. The windows were fogged, lights low, one of those trendy spots with overpriced espresso and too many succulents. I slid into the booth behind hers, half shielded by a ficus plant and a chipped mirror. That's when I heard it. Her voice, sharp and low. "I have the leverage, but I want more." Then another voice, Taryn's, shaky, rushed. "You said this would fix everything." Mira chuckled. "You said you owed 50 grand, not 500. My fingers gripped the vinyl seat. Taryn had lied about everything, even to her co-conspirator. "And now," Mira went on, "you're in debt to the wrong people. You dragged me into a ticking bomb. I'll pay you back." "With what?" Mira hissed. "That gallery? It's not even yours, and Liora isn't backing down." My name hit the air like a slap. There was a pause. Then Taryn said something I'll never forget. "What if she disappears?" My breath caught. "I didn't mean," Taryn added quickly, but Mira cut her off. "You're not built for that. Trust me." The rain outside blurred the glass like melted wax. Inside, the room felt 10 degrees colder. Mira exhaled. "Get me the key, the real one. Then we'll talk about your future." Taryn's voice cracked. "She never told me where it was." Mira's chair scraped. "Then find out. Or next time, I won't be the one asking." She stood. I sank lower, pulse jackhammering. The front door jingled as Mira stepped into the night, leaving behind nothing but the bitter scent of espresso and something darker, fear. I stayed frozen for several beats. Taryn never saw me. I slipped out through the back alley. The rain poured harder now, but I barely noticed. My thoughts were racing, not just at what I'd heard, but at what it meant. Mira wasn't in control anymore. She was panicked, cornered, desperate, and desperate people make mistakes. By the time I reached my car, I was drenched. My teeth chattered as I turned the engine. But inside my chest, a fire had started. Let her underestimate me again. Let her think I'd break. The next day, I went to Camille's storage unit, one of 3 she kept under aliases. The key from the red canvas fit the second locker. Inside was a small safe. I opened it slowly, half expecting it to be empty. But it wasn't. Bundles of old receipts, a flash drive in a velvet pouch, and tucked inside a weathered folder, photos, dozens of them, Taryn, Mira, even a man I didn't recognize, bald snake tattoo curling around his throat. Some looked like surveillance shots, others like evidence. I stared at them, heart slamming. Camille knew. She'd been watching before she died. She saw it coming. I plugged the flash drive into my laptop that night. Password protected, of course, but Camille had always used the same phrase for her encrypted files. Paint doesn't lie. Inside recordings, not just gallery security footage, but phone conversations, email threads, a voice memo from Camille herself. If you're hearing this, it means they got closer than I'd hoped. I trusted Taryn once. I loved her, but love doesn't make you blind. Watch Mira. She doesn't bluff. And if she's involved, there's someone else above her, someone worse. I paused the file. My hands were shaking too badly to go on. Worse than Mira? A memory hit me. Camille's hospital bed, her hand weak in mine, whispering something I didn't understand at the time. Some debts come with shadows, not dollar signs. Now it made sense. Taryn wasn't just trying to steal from me. She was running for her life and dragging mine into it. Later that night, I heard a car idle outside our house for too long. I peered through the blinds, black SUV, no plates. It drove off slowly when I reached for my phone. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I met with Camille's attorney. I gave him the recordings, the forged will, the photographs. He didn't speak for a full minute after reviewing the folder. "I'll draft the injunction today," he finally said. "But Liora, you need to be careful." "I know." When I left, the clouds were heavy and low, the air sharp with incoming rain. I checked my phone. No messages, until one came in. No contact info. Just a photo. Me, outside the lawyer's office, and one sentence. "You're not the only one watching." There's a moment when silence doesn't feel like peace. It feels like a warning. The photo on my phone, me, stepping out of the lawyer's office, haunted me all night. No sender, no reply, just that single line. "You're not the only one watching." By morning, I couldn't breathe right. The walls of the house felt too tight, too thin. Every creak made my skin prickle. I didn't tell Ellis. I wanted to. God, I did. But something had shifted. The way he moved around me lately. Measured, careful, like I might shatter, or like he knew something I didn't. Instead, I drove out to the bluff just outside town. Camille used to take me there as a kid. Said the ocean always told the truth. The wind cut sharp across my face. Below, waves slammed the rocks like fists. And suddenly, I was back there, 17, crying in the back seat of Camille's car after failing my first big design pitch. Taryn had teased me relentlessly, said my work looked like it belonged in a motel. Camille had reached over, gently turned my face toward the window and said, "Don't let her fear become your blueprint." Even now, I felt those words under my skin, because fear was everywhere, and this time, it wasn't just Taryn. I drove back to the gallery that afternoon. The folder of evidence sat locked in the office drawer. The voice recorder, copies made, sent to the attorney, one hidden in my car. Still, I didn't feel safe. That evening, I found a new envelope slipped under the gallery door. No postage, no name, just a single document inside, a deed, for the Camden Gallery, signed by me. Except I'd never seen it before. My signature, my handwriting, perfectly replicated. I sat down slowly, hands trembling. They were getting bold, forging ownership now, trying to steal the gallery outright. I clutched the paper. My throat burned. I wanted to scream, break something. Instead, I picked up the phone and called Ellis. "Can you meet me here?" I asked. "Everything okay?" "Please." He arrived 20 minutes later, hair damp from rain. His eyes searched mine as he stepped inside. "What happened?" I handed him the forged deed. He scanned it, brows knitting. "This is serious." "I know." "Do you think it's Mira?" I shook my head. "I think it's both of them. Taryn's desperate. Mira's calculated. Together, they're dangerous." He sat beside me, shoulders tense. "What are you going to do?" I looked at the gallery walls, Camille's collection, the life she built, the silence she trusted me to protect. "I'm going to fight." Ellis reached out, touched my hand. "You don't have to do this alone." But I wasn't sure anymore. That night I sobbed in the bathtub with the water still running, not from fear, from betrayal. Because somewhere deep down, I still wanted to believe Taryn could be saved, that this was all a horrible misunderstanding. But the forged deed said otherwise. So did the email, the fake will, the surveillance. She wasn't backing off, and neither was I. The next morning, I pulled the journal from Camille's safe again. There, on the inside back cover, I noticed a faint imprint I hadn't seen before, like someone had written a note, then torn the page out. I held it up to the light. Indented letters appeared, barely visible. "Warehouse, 112 King. Safe code in the brush handle." Warehouse? I grabbed my phone and looked it up. Camille once used a private rental downtown to store oversized canvases. It had been closed for years. My stomach flipped. What was in there? I didn't tell Ellis. Not yet. Instead, I sent him on an errand to pick up framing supplies for a fake exhibit I pretended to be planning. He kissed my cheek before leaving, and I couldn't stop thinking, was that the kiss of a partner, or someone watching me for the other side? By noon I was outside the warehouse, rusty roll-up door, faded lettering on the side. The sky above was bruised gray, the air damp with Seattle's winter rot. I used the key from Camille's red canvas. It fit. Inside, darkness, cold, the smell of mildew and old wood. I flipped on my phone flashlight. A small safe sat bolted to the far wall behind a stack of covered frames, dust thick enough to write secrets in. I reached into the brush handle Camille once left me, unscrewed the end. A slip of paper rolled tight. Code 1407. I keyed it in. The safe clicked. Inside, another voice recorder, a second flash drive, and a thin, handwritten note. Just 2 words. Trust no one. Suddenly, I heard it. A footstep. Behind me. I turned, but no one was there. Just the open warehouse door, swinging slightly in the wind. There's a kind of stillness that only comes before something breaks. The air inside the warehouse was cold and metallic, thick with the scent of rust and damp concrete. The safe still hung open behind me, its contents now zipped into my satchel. Recorder, drive, Camille's final warning etched into my spine. Trust no one. The creak I heard earlier could have been a trick of wind, but deep down I knew better. I closed the safe slowly, heart thudding in my throat. My palms were slick. Every breath felt loud. I turned. Empty hallway. No footsteps. No voice. Still, I didn't move. Not for a long time. Then I locked the door behind me and left the warehouse, eyes sweeping the street. No SUV this time. No figures in shadow. But the feeling lingered. Someone had been there, watching, waiting. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was bait. That night, I opened Camille's journal one last time and scribbled a plan. Not on instinct, not from anger, from necessity. The vault had never been the final play. The real trap would be theirs. They just didn't know I was the one setting it now. 2 nights later, the gallery lights burned late, long past closing. The paintings were backlit in soft amber, the air thick with turpentine, citrus cleaner, and something less tangible: anticipation. I'd arranged everything: Camille's journal, cracked open beside a faux appraisal note, the red canvas set against the far wall like bait. And near the locked drawer in the back office, the real safe key, placed just visibly enough to tempt. The recorder I'd planted inside the wall clock blinked red, silent, and listening. I checked the door again. Then I waited, and waited. Until finally, footsteps. I kept to the shadows near the framing nook, back pressed to the plaster wall, breath shallow. The door creaked open, soft. 2 figures stepped in, Taryn first, Mira behind her. Taryn looked worn, no makeup, hair tied back, eyes twitchy. Mira, in contrast, was all sharp edges, heels, leather gloves, and that same smirk she always wore when she thought she was winning. They whispered. "I told you she left it open," Taryn muttered. "She's too sentimental. She wouldn't leave this place." "Let's hope sentimentality keeps her mouth shut," Mira replied. Taryn crossed to the desk, spotted the safe key. She picked it up with shaking hands. "Check the vault," Mira ordered. "I'll make sure the door's secured." Taryn disappeared into the back. I heard her open the panel. "Now," I stepped out. "You're late." Mira spun. Her hand shot into her coat, then froze when she saw the camera on the shelf, light blinking. Taryn stumbled out, wide-eyed. "You." "Me," I said. "And the police are 5 minutes out." "Liora, we can explain," Taryn started. I cut her off. "You broke in, you tampered with legal documents, and now you're on tape." Mira didn't flinch. "You think this is about the gallery?" "No, it's about Camille's legacy and what you buried trying to steal it. You don't understand who I work for." "I understand you're afraid." That landed. Her jaw flexed. A bead of sweat slipped down her temple. "I didn't want to involve your sister," she said quietly. "She came to me. I was a solution." Taryn spoke again, softer now. "Liora, please." I looked at her, really looked at her. Her hands were trembling. Her lip bled from where she'd bitten it. For a flash, I remembered her at 13, holding my hand after Dad left, promising we'd always stick together. That was before she learned how to use love like currency. "Do you regret it?" I asked. Silence. Then, "I didn't think it would go this far." "But you let it." Mira stepped forward. "You're bluffing. No police, just noise." "You sure?" A car pulled up outside. Sirens didn't wail, but I knew they were coming. Mira turned to run. I stepped in her way. "Move," she hissed. I didn't. She shoved past me, but I caught her coat sleeve just enough for the recorder to catch her next words. "You think this ends with me? You have no idea who you're dealing with." The door slammed behind her. Taryn stayed. We stood in silence. She reached into her coat and pulled out something small, the forged will. She handed it to me. I never wanted to be her, but I never wanted to be invisible either. My hands shook as I took it, and for the first time, I saw her, not as a sister, but as a woman drowning in her own debt. "I can't save you," I whispered. "I know." Then she turned and walked into the hallway as blue and red lights flickered through the gallery glass. I stayed behind, because I wasn't done. The recorder still blinked, and one voice, one player, was still missing from the game, the one who hadn't shown up yet, but they would. They always do. There's a kind of silence after sirens fade. Not relief, not calm, just space. Space where the damage finally settles in. I stood at the gallery window for a long time after the police cruiser turned the corner, its lights casting red and blue ghosts against the glass. Taryn didn't look back. She didn't cry. She didn't resist. She just sat in the back seat like someone who knew the storm had finally caught up to her. I didn't follow. I didn't wave. I stayed in the quiet. Inside, the air still carried the scent of citrus and varnish, but underneath that, panic, sweat, regret, a lifetime of it. I walked slowly back to the office, closed the door, locked it. Then I pressed play on the recorder. Mira's voice spilled out clear and vicious. "You think this ends with me? You have no idea who you're dealing with." She wasn't bluffing. The police had taken Taryn, but Mira had slipped away, and the people behind her still out there. I uploaded the recording, sent it to Detective Harrow at SPD, the one Camille once mentioned in her will addendum. I sent a copy to Camille's lawyer too, then I backed it up, twice, one in the cloud, one on a flash drive I slid into the lining of my coat. Let them try to bury this now. The next morning the gallery felt different, lighter. The sun cut through the upper windows, hitting the brushstrokes like fire. Dust floated lazy in the beams. Camille's self-portrait stared out from the north wall, eyes neither warm nor cold, just knowing. I touched the frame. "It's safe," I whispered, but inside me, it didn't feel over. That afternoon I was called to the precinct. They had questions. I answered them all. The forged will, the forged deed, the voice recordings, the drive from the warehouse, the safe key, every breadcrumb Camille left. Then came the twist. Detective Harrow leaned forward. "We traced Mira Holt's last known location. She's on the move, but we found something in her apartment." He slid a photo across the table. My heart hiccuped. A grainy shot of a man, bald, snake tattoo curling up his throat, the same man from Camille's surveillance photos. "He's real," I breathed. "Name's Calder Black," Harrow said. "Money launderer, extortion, fraud, arson. Disappeared 5 years ago." "What does he want with us?" Harrow shook his head. "Mira's tied to him, but we don't know how deep." I sat back. So Camille had been right. This wasn't just a family matter. This was criminal, organized, professional. "She knew," I whispered. "She did," he replied. "And now you do." I left the station with a copy of Calder's file tucked under my arm. Taryn hadn't known about him. I could see that now. She thought Mira was her lifeline, but Mira had been Calder's leash all along. By the time I got home, the clouds had rolled back in. Seattle dusk, gray and endless. I poured a glass of wine and sat at the kitchen table. Ellis was already there, waiting. He looked tired, hollow. "I heard about Taryn," he said. I nodded. He swallowed. "She called me." My chest tightened. "What?" He looked down. "Before the gallery incident, she asked if I'd talk to you, get you to reconsider. She didn't say much, just that she was scared." "And you didn't tell me?" "I didn't want to push you away. You were already so deep in this." I stared at him. My heart didn't break. It just pulled back, like it was retreating into a room and quietly locking the door. "Did you help her?" "No." He looked up. "I swear, Liora, I didn't give her anything." But he didn't stop her either. That hurt more. I stood. "I need some air." He didn't follow. I walked back to the gallery. My steps were slow, the kind you take when you're not sure what's waiting for you. Inside, everything was still, a heartbeat frozen in time. I walked to the back office, sat down. Then I played Camille's final voice memo. "If you're listening to this, it means the truth came too late for me, but not for you. They'll try to make you doubt yourself. That's how they work. But you are stronger than them, Liora. You always have been. And when the moment comes, trust your instinct. It won't save you from heartbreak, but it'll save your legacy." I closed my eyes, breathed in her words, and for the first time in weeks, I believed them. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number, one line of text. "Warehouse, midnight. Come alone, or everything burns." I stared at the screen. The final player just made their move, and I was already in check. They say when everything burns, you see what's worth saving. At 11:57 p.m., I stood outside the warehouse on King Street, the one Camille warned about, the one that now held more than secrets. It held leverage. The street was empty. No cars, no footsteps. Just the hum of power lines and the distant groan of freight trains. I gripped my coat tighter. In my pocket, the second flash drive. In my boot, the recorder. If they wanted a war, I came ready for the final round. At midnight, the door creaked open. Mira stood in the shadows, arms crossed, hair pulled back like always, tight, severe, unreadable. Beside her was Calder Black, bald, snake tattoo curling up his neck just like the photo. His presence soaked the air like kerosene. Cold eyes scanned me like I was currency. "You came alone," he said. "I always do." He chuckled. Shame. Mira motioned for me to step inside. You brought the drive? I didn't answer, just walked past them into the dark. The lights buzzed overhead, casting long shadows across the empty warehouse floor. A few crates, a broken easel, the perfect setting for the kind of meeting where people don't always leave. Calder circled me slowly. You don't scare easy. I don't scare at all anymore, he smirked. You're not just here for justice. You want to win. He wasn't wrong. I reached into my coat, pulled out the flash drive. This has everything. Mira's voice, Taryn's confession, the full audit trail. Mira stepped forward, hand outstretched. I didn't give it to her. You get this, I said. Only if you walk away, for good. Calder tilted his head. And if we don't? I clicked the recorder in my pocket. You're being recorded, and the original files have already been sent to the police. One goes public every hour unless I stop the timer. Mira's jaw clenched. You think we're scared of exposure? Calder asked. No, I said, but you hate attention, and you've worked hard to stay buried. That's your weakness, visibility. He didn't move. Then he smiled, a slow, dangerous grin. I like you, he said. You've got teeth. He turned to Mira. Let it go. Mira snapped her gaze toward him. You're kidding. I said drop it. His voice cut like steel. She wins. Mira's fists clenched. Her knuckles went white, but she stepped back. Calder looked at me again. Last piece of advice. Leave Seattle. You've made enemies you don't even know exist. Good thing I've never been good at staying quiet. He nodded once, then vanished into the night. Mira lingered for one breath. You're lucky she loved you, she muttered. Camille. Then she turned and followed him out. I stayed behind. And when the door slammed shut, I collapsed onto the crate nearest me, shaking. Not from fear, from release. I didn't cry, but my whole body felt like it had been holding its breath for years. It was over. 2 weeks later, the charges were finalized. Mira was named in multiple federal investigations. Calder vanished again, but not before the police traced enough assets to freeze several offshore accounts. Taryn pled guilty. In her final statement, she didn't ask for mercy. She asked for silence. She's serving 3 years. Ellis and I separated. No screaming, no betrayal. Just a slow, mutual untethering. He said he still loved me. But I think we both knew. The version of me he loved didn't survive what happened. I didn't either. Not entirely. But I'm learning. The Camden Gallery reopened last Friday. For the first time, all 12 pieces of Camille's legacy hung together, framed, lit, protected. People came. They whispered. They stared. And I watched from the back, coffee in hand, the sun bleeding gold through the skylights. A little girl stood in front of the red canvas, tilted her head. Why is it angry? She asked her dad. He smiled. Maybe it's not angry. Maybe it's just honest. I smiled too, because sometimes honesty looks like rage. Sometimes healing looks like walking away. And sometimes silence is the most violent thing of all. Camille once told me, protecting your legacy isn't greed, it's strength. Trust is a gift, not a guarantee. She was right. So if you've made it this far, thank you. And if you've ever been betrayed by someone who should have loved you, you're not alone. Subscribe to the channel for more true life thrillers like this. Like the video. If you felt the sting of betrayal, comment your thoughts. What would you have done in my place? And share this story if you believe legacies deserve to be protected. I'll see you in the next one.